Dear audience, let me welcome you here. This interview is part of the Czech Dead Film Movie Festival, which is annually organized with Czech Centers and Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Czech Republic. This year's is the 10th edition of the Czech Dead Film. Unfortunately, we are online again due to the COVID-19 situation in the world, but we are happy that we can introduce you Czech filmmakers, directors, producers, unless through these short question and answers. And today I am here with Petr Zelenka. Petr Zelenka is director, writer and producer of the movie The Drone Man. Welcome.
Hi.
So let's start with the first question. What was the first impulse or inspiration of yours for this type of the movie?
I realized a long time ago that a term, a word, terrorism or terrorist, is very often overused or misused to describe activities that, for me, wouldn't be terrorist at all. You know? So this label is being used for many activities that are actually sometimes quite peaceful, and sometimes these people can be on the edge of good and bad. You know, so labeling somebody terrorist is definitely a questionable term for me. You know. So that was the impulse. That was the thought impulse for that.
Okay, so if I'm thinking about the movie itself, you think that the main character is a terrorist, or he is not a terrorist, or...
Well, whatever he is, he was definitely labeled a terrorist at the very end of the movie. But I think he's just a guy that feels that you have to do something because the world is so fucked up. Like Kurt Vonnegut said, it's fucked up beyond all recognition. They called it FUBAR. So I think the world is really FUBAR, and this guy, he's like 27 or so, and he thinks it's FUBAR on many levels, you know, on a local political level where the politicians are compromised and they take bribes and all that, you know. In the past, in the communist past, it was also FUBAR, and it's FUBAR on the international level, where you have guys like Bush and his administration, and they caused thousands of deaths, and still they didn't go to jail. So he thinks you have to do something about it, and of course there's nothing you can do, you know, or there's very little you can do, yeah. And you can go to the extreme, but and still you don't have to be mentally disbalanced, you know. You can be slightly disbalanced, but you don't have to be crazy to do that.
Yeah, like you open a lot of topics like this in the movie, like war in Iraq, the terrorist attacks, crimes against humanity, and then, especially for Czech Republic, you were talking about the presidential elections, the campaign before elections, and also about the try to assassinate the president. Do you think that you were dancing on the edge a bit?
No, in the film there are many kinds of, I would say, activism. And there's also a funny side to it, and these two guys that operate the drone company, they're being hired by other guys, and also they're being hired by activists that do funny things in the public. And one of these funny things is that they collect money to hire a killer to kill the president, which is just happening. Nobody's taking it seriously, except for our guy. He's the only one who takes it seriously. But it's one of these fun things that we do, you know, all the time, and that actually don't go anywhere because it's just fun, you know. But the very idea that you can instead of making a record, you know, or making a film, you collect money for killing the president. It's quite a nice idea for me. You know.
So it's being fun to collect money for assassination of a president.
Yeah. So the question is it terrorism or is it fun? You know, how do you distinguish between this sort of fun or happening and terrorism, you know. So here it's obvious, it's fun, you know. You don't actually intend to kill the president, you just make fun of it. But there are other cases in the film where it's not so funny.
Yeah, for example, the assassination of Dick Cheney.
Yes.
Pavel, the main character, wanted to kill or attack Dick Cheney. Why him, like, specifically?
Well, I was looking for somebody who's really evil, you know. Who's Mr. Evil, you know. And there are a couple of guys in Bush administration, in former Bush administration, and the choice was actually Rumsfeld or Cheney, you know. That was the main choice, because these are the bad guys, and they're responsible for thousands of people dying, actually mostly civilians. And at the same time, it's completely science fiction if you think they would get to the court. You know, they've been on a factual level. I was following a guy called Michael Ratner. He's dead, unfortunately now, but he was an excellent lawyer, American lawyer. He was the head of the Center for the Constitutional Rights, and he was always fighting for the underdog. He was representing Julian Assange, people like that, you know, in the court. And he was representing also Iraqi families, civilians, in the cases, court cases against the United States. And he was following the case of Guantanamo and other torture places. And he specialized on war with torture. And they realized that torture was legal, according to some Bush administration papers. And actually these guys made torturing people legal. But of course, in the international law, this is a crime against humanity, one of the most serious crimes. And these people could be and should be punished according to the international law. And the beautiful thing is that this is such a heavy crime that you can persecute these people in any of the countries that signed the agreement, which is about 140 countries. It doesn't matter that that the victim was not from that country. It doesn't matter that the crime was not committed inside the territory of a specific country. You can still sue it at the court. You can still bring these people to the court, which is a fantastic idea. That in Czech Republic you can go to court and sue these people, these American administration people, for crimes against humanity. And at the same time, it's highly unlikely that it's going to happen. You know? Yeah. So I wanted to have the situation when everybody knows what's right, and still, it's complete science fiction to do that. You know, and it's exactly what's going on inside the head of the main character.
So you made this movie because you think that we should talk about this and we should know like what's happening or what was happening.
We should talk about it and we should sue these people here.
Okay.
And I contacted the top government lawyers here. I consulted with them, and of course the process would be very, very complicated. And in other countries where they attempted to do that, like Germany, Spain, France, they got quite far, but of course the political pressure from the United States was so heavy that they dropped the cases.
Yeah, it's said in the movie when the main character is contacting the lawyer and she said like, it's possible, but I wouldn't do it because I know that it would take years and years and the result would be probably no result.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's switch to a bit easier topic. Why drones? The movie is called The Drone Man. Drones have a really important role in the movie. Are you personally interested in drones? Or?
I have to say I am, yes. I love them. I love them. And I think there's a beautiful arc, you know, when the drones started, they started as a weapon, and it was also Americans that invented them as a weapon. They used them as a weapon, and then gradually it started to be a device for operating a camera, actually, and the public started to use it. And in the film, it sort of goes back, and the character starts to use the drone in its original way as a weapon. So I think that there's also the meaning in it. You know.
Yeah, that's interesting. And do you use drones while you are making a movie? Like,
well, of course, we were using a lot of drones. We were shooting a drone from a drone, so we had sometimes 2 or 3 drones in the air at the same time, which was complete madness, you know. Yeah. So we had a lot of drone navigators and camera operators that operate cameras on the drones. And the biggest drone we had was about 2 meters in diameter, like six propellers. It was this monster, you know, because it could carry as much as 20 kilos.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting, because I think that it's quite visible in new movies, Czech or foreign, doesn't matter, that the drones are more and more used in making a movie. It's quite normal already.
Well, drones are overused, I would say, in normal. Whenever you need to do a top shot or a sky shot, you use a drone, and I think they're overused. But that was not our case, because we actually made a film about drones, you know, so we are shooting drones in the air from other drones. You know.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, for me, it was interesting. I've never saw that many drones before, and I didn't know what everything they could do. Like, you know, there were this fashion show with the drones, or when they were shooting the commercial for the cars, where they were going through this bridge. It was quite interesting. That's true.
But actually, the fashion show was the most difficult part, because we had 4 small-sized drones, with purses and jewelry, and they were very close to each other, like 1 meter apart. And there was the audience there, and you were not supposed to hurt anybody, and still keep the drones in line and do a simple choreography with them, and hide the navigators at the same time, because they always should have the visual contact, as they say. They should always see the drone they're navigating, but the camera mustn't see the navigator. So they were being hidden in the hall, so the camera doesn't see them, and that was complicated, really.
Yeah, it didn't seem that complicated in the movie. While you see Pavel or Plech, played by Jiří Mádl, there it seems like they are just playing, you know, like the cars.
Yeah. It's like a video game.
Yeah, it looks like video game. That's true. When I already mentioned Jiří Mádl, he played a role called Plech. I would say amazingly. How complicated it was to choose him, or it was the intention that he looks like Kato, the Czech rapper, or it was first Jiří Mádl and then inspiration from Kato, or vice versa?
From the very start, the character had to have a genetical defect, because his father worked in the uranium mines, and the guy says he got his balls radiated, and his son was born without teeth. So he's playing a guy with no teeth, or very short teeth, and so he thought, well, that's great, I'll invent a new way of speaking. And he started to speak like a guy without teeth, and during the rehearsals we couldn't understand what he was saying. And so I said, yeah, this is great, but I don't want to post-synchronize everything you say, you know, so change it. And he was working on it really thoroughly. And he came up with a guy that is still understandable what he's saying, but he's got a very heavy defect of speaking.
So it was Jiří Mádl's idea to speak like this?
It was his idea to do it so literally. Because what I thought when I wrote it in the script, I thought, yeah, this is a character, but when we do it, we'll probably more or less drop this feature. And he said, no, I want to focus on this, and I want to really work with no teeth, you know.
And he was also rapping in the movie.
And he was rapping, yeah. And there's a rapper, there's a famous Czech rapper that has got a similar problem with the teeth, because he was on drugs when he was 18 or 20, and that's what he says, and his teeth fell out. So that's a different motive, but it's sort of similar to our character.
Yeah, I would say it's quite similar.
So
when you hear
you understood what he was saying. So it's
yeah,
good.
I understood quite well. I think there was no problem, but it was I don't know, like 2 or 3 times in the movie that, for example, Pavel, the main character, asked him like, "I don't understand you," or "What are you saying?" But it was really natural. Like
we thought, let's keep it natural because we don't know what he's saying.
It worked quite well, I would say, and they worked really good together. You know, like those 2 main characters, like Pavel and Plech. It was really nice to watch them together before the camera.
Oh,
like,
that's good. Thank you. Yeah.
It
was a lot of work, actually. A lot of work.
Yeah, I can see. And it just come up to my mind again back to this presidential campaign we shot in the movie. We can see in the movie you were inspired with the real presidential campaign of our presidents or possible presidents, or you came up with a president you would like to have or wouldn't like to have?
I was inspired by by our presidential campaign 2-3 years ago. Well, very often you have candidates you don't like, so that was the inspiration. And this is like an essence of populism, what he's saying, the guy. It's quite easy to write it.
Yeah, and it's quite the theme of the presidential campaign is really like temporary. Now we have a new president in the US. We will soon have a presidential campaign here in Czech Republic again. It should start in few months, I would say. Yeah, we will see what will happening. And are you working on something new right now, or do we have something to?
Well, I'm working on a television series. Actually, it's called Limit, and it's about a guy who, against his will, becomes a hero of an ecological activism.
So activism again.
Yeah, but this time he's there really against his will. He's the guy who actually makes his living by dumping some toxic stuff. Quite on the other side of against all these activities, ecological activities, but he's also getting divorced, and he's trying to prevent his son from going to one of these big demonstrations in the coal mines. And he's playing with a special jacket. He has a special jacket. He belonged to Niki Lauda or something. He got it from eBay. And he's fascinated with the jacket. So he did some experiments with, it's inflammable, it wouldn't burn, if you pour petrol on it. It doesn't burn, it's a special jacket. He does some experiments with that. He wears the jacket also when he's trying to stop his son from going to the demonstration. But suddenly, from lighting a cigarette, his jacket starts burning. So he's taken to the hospital unconscious. And not a big deal, But his wife, who's dating an activist and is divorcing this guy, and she realizes he's been a bastard all past years, So she fakes his last will, and she actually says he burned himself against these big coal companies. Mm-hmm. So he becomes a hero of a protest, actually, but being unconscious in the hospital.
Okay, he doesn't know.
He doesn't know, and it's big, It's really because it's a person almost dying, It's something different from just people walking there with some banners. This is a serious thing. So it's a big thing in the press. But he wakes up and says, "Oh, this is bullshit. I'm not like that. I'm against it. So he decides to do a press conference and explain that it was just a game between him and his wife. And but at that time, another young guy burns himself to death, following his example. And he says, wow, this is something.
This is something big.
This is something big, you know. And I can't say this was just a joke between me and my wife because we're getting divorced, you know. So, and he's getting into it, you know. So he contacts the parents of the young guy and all that, and he starts operating within the movement of anti-coal movement, you know, stop the coal movement, and he and he's the businessman, so he tells them how to do it properly. And he actually destroys the whole movement without wanting to destroy it. You know, he's just. So this, I would say, we have the prime minister who says you can run a country like a company, and this guy, my character, would say you can run a protest movement like a company. You know.
Okay.
And none of that works, of course.
So we have something to look forward to watch.
Yeah, in 3 years' time.
In 3? Oh, it's quite
I think
long.
I'm gonna write it this year, after next year. The financing should be pretty straightforward because it's a purely television project, television series, eight parts. So we can.
Yeah, because since
2023.
we have checked that film online already second year, because last year was online too, it opened us, let's say, doors to other things than just feature films. So in this year, check that film, we already have series, we already have shorts and animation, because in this online world, it's just on the viewer what he will choose. So
it's happening everywhere.
We can also add the series. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I think it's enough for our viewers for today, and thank you for watching us. We hope that you enjoy these short Q&As, and I would like to invite you to also watch other movies we have in our selection this year, and thank you again for watching. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you for watching.